This is the day that people across the region and around the world have been working, striving, hoping, and praying for. They have done things over the last month that I think were really unthinkable. Nobody thought this could happen. With the historic agreement we've just signed, those prayers of millions have finally been answered. As you know, the hostages have been returned, and further work goes on having to do with the, sadly to say, bodies. Together we've achieved what everybody said was impossible. At long last, we have peace in the Middle East, and it's a very simple expression, peace in the Middle East, and we've heard it for many years, but nobody thought it could ever get there, and now we're there.
Hello, and welcome back to Lion's Voice UK. So, Trump has worked together with Israel to bring an end to the war in Gaza. And, peace in the Middle East. And you see the globalists looking around for anyone else they can give the Nobel Peace Prize. Anyone but Trump. My question now is, what are these unemployed lefties going to do with their time now that they can't go out and protest against Gaza or against what's happening in Gaza? The genocide. Now, whether or not it was a genocide, that's a completely different question. That's not what I'm really talking about. But the truth of the matter is, if they had handed over the hostages, there would have been no war to speak of. If they didn't attack on October the 7th in the first place, then there also would have been no war to speak of. So, if we're being real, this was the fault of Hamas. And it's truly a sad thing that all the civilians, innocent women and children and men, died because of this. But that's simply because Hamas was hiding behind women and children. Schools and nurseries and hospitals. How long do we think it's going to last? How long? Lord knows this ain't the end. This little squabble they've been having has been going on for donkey's years. It's been going on for a long time, and something tells me that it's not going to end anytime soon. There might be a ceasefire now, and let's be real, Trump and the Trump team do deserve our applause. This is, I wouldn't say unprecedented, but unexpected, certainly. I wasn't expecting this. I was, if you ask me, I was expecting this war to rage on for at least another 20 or 30 years until it got really serious and caused further issues in the Middle East and more countries to join in. I thought this was going to be the beginning of that war that's spoke about in Revelation, you know, where all the tribes of the world, all the countries kind of like gang up on Israel, and but I don't think that's actually, you know, in hindsight and in looking into that scripture a little deeper, you find out that that seems to be after the Antichrist, because what happens when all the countries start ganging up on Israel, the West and the East, the true Messiah returns. Jesus returns. And it was slightly foolish of me to think that, but I digress. Let's get back to my original point. What are these lefties going to do now? They're going to have to find another current thing. You know? First it was Ukraine, then it was Gaza, and now what? What are they going to cry about now? Probably the refugees, probably the immigrants, something like that. But yeah, it kind of came as a shock to me, as I'm sure it did many other people, and it might be coming as a shock to you now if this is the first you've heard of it. But yeah, there is now peace in Gaza, on the Gaza Strip. And you know, that whenever a war comes to a halt, I know that puts a smile on God's face. He doesn't want war. He does not want war. He doesn't, I'm sure he could understand the necessity of certain wars, or, well, like, if a country's being invaded, he understands how you shouldn't just sit by and take it and watch your family get killed, and watch your friends and loved ones get killed. He understands. He understands there is a time and place for it. But he also never sympathizes with the aggressors. And who were the aggressors in this situation? That would be Hamas. That would be Hamas. Do I think that Israel were attacking Gaza purely because of the hostages? Purely because of what happened in October 7th? No, of course not. Of course not. That's propaganda. It was a useful thing that they could. It was like a shield to them, you know. The elitists, the people around Benjamin Netanyahu. It was kind of like a shield to them. It masks their true intentions and the true reasons why they were waging that war in the first place, which was power and territory. Now, the question comes down to, was Palestine was Palestine even a real country in the first place? From what I've seen, no. Palestine was not a real country. It's always been a part of Israel. But now that there's been a ceasefire, it doesn't look like Israel is going to be able to, you know, take control of the West Bank. And what it looks like is going to happen is that Gaza is actually going to become a state. Obviously it's going to be propped up with some puppet from the West, most likely America. They always like to do that. And seeing that it was America that got the ceasefire to happen, it definitely will be. The regime definitely will be propped up by somebody who was sent by America, trained in America, or at least trained by Americans. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's definitely a very good thing for this. for this country, because we were supporting Benjamin Netanyahu, and we were supporting Israel financially, even though our rhetoric has been about, well, it's kind of been centrist, because if you understand what was going to happen if Israel did manage to annex the West Bank, annex the Gaza Strait, if they did manage to take over, it would have displaced tens, hundreds of thousands possibly of Muslims, and they would have come to the West. They would have come to France, Germany and England, and that would not have been a good thing. So we were playing both sides of the pitch, if you get what I'm saying. We were financially supporting Israel, but we were also in rhetoric supporting Gaza, Palestine, Hamas, because that's truly where our political interests lie, not with Israel. If we had a choice, it wouldn't be with Israel, at least our leaders. If I had a choice, it'd be neither. I'm not sure if I would even be able to do something like Trump did and get a ceasefire, which again, he should be commended for. Yeah, I'm not sure I'd be able to do that, but I definitely wouldn't be on either side. It's like that thing from South Park where it's like, pick the turd sandwich or the giant douche. How about neither? You're giving me two shit options. I'm just not going to pick one. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting development. Not something I had expected. I don't think it's what I don't think many. I think most people didn't expect that. Can't talk. I don't think most people expected that to happen. But you know, the fact that it did is actually really good. We have been saved from a second Boris wave type situation. It would have been worse. It would have been far worse. And although we are getting many extremists here, and we're also breeding extremists here, and they're also being made in the prison systems. You look at a place like Palestine, there is a lot of extremists. And they really don't like the West. See, where that really comes from, I believe, is not only that we're Christian, you know, it's not only that we are successful, it's that they believe they are God's chosen people, the Muslims, and they live in the Middle East, and they're unsuccessful, and they think, why are we unsuccessful? If we're God's chosen people, why are we living in slums? You know, and they're living like kings. I think a big part of it is jealousy, and obviously because we are a Christian nation. But I think the bigger part of it is jealousy. I think that's where it really roots from. And there's also a whole load of bitterness that came about from the pointless wars we fought out in the Middle East for power and money and gold and oil. You know, we shouldn't be importing these people. If not for the fact that their culture is like water and oil to ours, but for the fact that they hate us and they want us dead. They're here, many of them are here for revenge. And it may not have, it may not have been something that they've personally suffered, but it doesn't really have to be. not with Muslims. They're all about honor, and we have dishonored them for hundreds of years. That's how they see it, and in a sense it's true. The only thing I can really agree with would be the Crusades, what we did during the Crusades. And I think that gets back to an earlier point I made, talking about how God understands some wars. It's not like he'd want them to be happening, but he understands that if you are being taken over, replaced, killed, and you know, especially nowadays, you see power structures are not only not doing anything, but they're actually facilitating it. If you're being invaded, I'm sure God understands the need for us to fight back. You know, drop my water bottle. Swapping hands, arms getting a bit tired. Been doing some arm curls. 4 kilogram weight. Whatever. I've only just started working out. But yeah. Very interesting development. Very, very interesting development. Just trying to think. Israel are not happy about this. Israel are not happy about this. And I'm going to turn around. It's going to be really noisy if I go that way. Fucking main road. Israel are not happy about this. You know, they might have seen it when Trump met Benjamin Netanyahu. I think Netanyahu went to the White House to meet Trump. And they seem to be getting along. But I'm pretty sure before Trump went out and announced that he was trying to get peace in the Middle East with Netanyahu, he had a long talk with Netanyahu in private. I think that actually ended up making them late to the press conference. And I think it's obviously only part of it, but I think that was part of the reason why this ended up happening. Netanyahu got a stern talking to. Another thing this really establishes is the strength of America. It re-establishes the idea of the strength of America. Because if you look at England and the things that have been happening under Starmer's regime, yeah, you can see that we're a weak country led by spineless, weak individuals. And that's tragic. Being a Brit myself, born and bred, you know, when we're being displaced. And that's an issue that America was dealing with. But what happened was ICE came in. I said this in my last video. I'm going to repeat this ad infinitum until it gets dealt with. But I think that's a topic for another video. But let's just say, if Nigel Farage doesn't do something about the migrant crisis, we need to kick off. Not just stand pansying around with your flags. Not just march in the street now. We need to actually boogaloo. If Farage doesn't sort things out, we'll see. Well, let's get back to the point. Israel and Palestine are no longer at war, at least for now. It's a ceasefire. And let's just see how long that lasts. Oh, and I think I saw a video of people who were still out protesting the whole Israel-Gaza situation, they were protesting for Palestine after the ceasefire. It just goes to show that these people don't actually care and they're not actually invested. They're just lazy workshites that just want to feel like they're a part of something. They want to feel like they're a part of progress. They want to virtue signal to their peers. And I think that kind of gets to the core of it, the core of the liberals. They don't actually know what ground they're standing on. They have no basis, no actual grounds for their arguments. It's just talking points and like slogans. They don't even know what they're arguing for. And the truth is, they don't even know what they're arguing against either. They know that they think that if you disagree with them, you're evil, and if you agree with them, then you're good. It's really, they think in such a black and white way. Silly, really. They can't even comprehend that other people would have differing viewpoints, and it's not just from a place of racism or prejudice. I blame the education system. This country was once known for having basically the finest education system known to man, probably ever in the history of the world. We made first class excellence in the 18 and 1900s. Our schools were fucking amazing, top notch. As I said, probably the best there's ever been. And if you go to them now, I'm sure many of you have been to a public school now, whether you're watching from England or America or elsewhere. I'm sure you can feel the decay without even having had experienced the old version of school, what it was like going to school in the early 1900s. You know, because those kids were taught discipline. Those kids were taught how to genuinely come to conclusions and think things through. Critical thinking. And we're not really taught that anymore, not in public schools. And even if we were, the kids don't give a shit. And there's no, I mean, the teachers they can't teach the kids discipline anymore. So the culture's just fucked at the minute. And our schools are in the bin compared to what they were like 100, 200 years ago. And you can see it when you watch these like Oxford debates and things like that on YouTube. You can really start to understand the actual cultural rot we're experiencing, because we used to be such well-defined people. Even if someone had a differing or completely opposing view to you, you can still understand that they're not doing it out of a place of malice. And you can also understand how to decipher if they are doing it out of a place of malice. But these people now, especially the leftists, they think if you have a differing opinion to me, then you must be evil, because I am right, I can't be wrong. And you know, they sit on their moral high horse looking down at all the peasants. That's really what it is. But yeah, let's see what the next current thing will be. What do we think it will be? I think, rather than just talking about Israel or Palestine, they're going to start talking about the migrants, because once Farage gets in 10 Downing Street, he's going to actually start to do something about it, at least hopefully. And then they'll jump on that bandwagon and call anyone, as they already do, who supports it a racist. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you could, it would help out so much if you could drop a like. My views have not been doing too well. Kind of feels like my channel's a little bit dead on arrival. But if you enjoy the videos, drop a like, drop a subscribe. It'd really help me out. Take care. Peace out.